So we defined what our favorite games of the generation were and why. And it got me thinking. I was like, well, for my podcast, I was like, maybe I should do something a little bit more specific. And I was thinking, why not define the top 10 instead of 5, because this is just me talking, top 10 Xbox exclusives. What were the top 10 Xbox One X exclusives for the generation? But for the podcast, we're going to do a top 10 Xbox One exclusives, and then I'm going to get into the questions. So this is the order that I have them in. Feel free to debate me, argue me. This is going to be a very serious conversation. Let me go ahead and get a swig of this water real quick here. All right. So my number 10 Xbox One exclusive was Sleep Mode. Sleep Mode is probably one of the best games on the Xbox One X, Xbox One, whatever one that you had. Mainly because the Xbox doesn't have any games. So it helped relieve the pain, I guess you could say. A lot of times, like, I would just look at my Xbox and it would just be getting dustier and dustier and dustier. Sometimes I would put a drink on it, or I would use it to keep the door open, especially when I was I actually used my Xbox One X to keep the door open when I was moving to Florida. When we were moving in, I had to keep the door open so I can get the packages in, I can get my boxes in that I was moving from DC to Florida. So we kept the door open with the Xbox One X, and it was really powerful, very heavy, very sturdy. But Sleep Mode in specific, when you get depressed and you realize you don't have any games, I think Sleep Mode helps you, just turn it off. Just turn it off. Because there are no games. That it made me feel better. My number 9 pick for the Xbox One exclusives would go to entering your Wi-Fi password. When you first boot up the Xbox One and you see that symbol and the X just like appears and everything, and then it's like you try to hit the store this is before you realize there's no games. You're really excited to get your Xbox. You have to enter your Wi-Fi password, because in order to download those games, everything's going digital now, right? In order to download those Xbox One X games that don't exist, you need a Wi-Fi password. So one of my favorite things that I did when I got my Xbox One X was I opened up when you had to connect your account, I entered my password. It took a pretty long time because Wi-Fi passwords are really long. I have a default one. I never change it because I like to keep my connections secure. Can't be having niggas stealing your internet. And it just lasted long, and it's a feeling that brought some joy to me. It maintained that happiness for a little bit longer before I hit the Xbox store and realized there were no games. So I think for number 9, entering your Wi-Fi password was one of my favorite Xbox One exclusives. Let's see, number 8. One of my favorite games number 8 exclusive, being able to tell Xbox fans that they have no games. That was one of my favorite games to play for the Xbox, because when you tell Xbox fans that they have no games, for some reason they get really fucking mad. Like right now, like when this podcast drops, someone's gonna probably write a whole paragraph before they even listen to my list about how I'm an asshole, or I'm a jerk, and like I play multiplats, or I play DLC, or I play with myself or something like that. But telling Xbox fans that they have no games is one of my favorite games to play. It just incites anger and fury, and they call you I've been called a PS4 fanboy, I've been called a PC fanboy, I've been called a Switch fanboy. Whatever fanboy you get called, it depends on the day of the week and whatever topic you're talking about. If it doesn't pertain to their bias, then you're a fanboy of the opposite, obviously. You just can't fairly criticize things. So one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite games to play, is to tell Xbox fans that they have no games. And I think the irony of it all is they always get so fucking mad. They write whole novels about how they do have games, and like I sit there and I read some of the novels. I don't read the whole thing because I'm not gonna read your whole paragraph, you bitch ass nigga. But when I sit there and I read a little bit of it, I'm like, wow, this dude really wrote a whole novel. He wouldn't be doing this if he had games to play. Anyways, number 7. My number 7 Xbox One exclusive, the Mixer app. Think about it. They say that yo chill. This is a serious fucking conversation. My number 7 favorite Xbox One exclusive of this generation was the Mixer app. Think about it. They say that the good die young, correct? The Mixer originally was Beam.io, and then Microsoft bought them and they rebranded as Mixer. Mixer lasted like what, a year and a half, maybe 2 years before it got shut down, and back in July when they released that tweet and didn't even tell their partners or their workers. So yeah, Mixer lasted only 2 years at most. It was a 2-year-old. It was a toddler. It was damn near infant when you think about it. And they say the good die young. So the Mixer app must have been really good because it died young. So that's why I would put it at number 7 for my favorite. And then on top of that, when you think about it, like if you actually went to Mixer and checked it out, they had tons of like amazing content creators, people like they had so many, I just can't even think. Anyways, number 6. The confusing interface was one of my favorite games. I ranked this at number 6. I love the confusing UI, the confusing interface on the Xbox One, because aimlessly browsing just led me to almost buying something. Like when you think about it, they didn't have any games, but because the interface was so like weird and just hard to navigate with all its panels and stuff, I was aimlessly browsing around the Microsoft store and I was like, yo, this place has a lot of movies to. I almost bought something on my Xbox one time. I almost bought something. And that only happened because the UI was confusing and they had no games. So it led me to aimlessly just browsing all over the place. And I almost bought a movie. I don't remember which movie it was, but I bet you if I did play the movie on the Xbox, it would run smoothly. So that's one of my favorite things. Also, the confusing interface was great because it led to some great content, to be honest. If you guys remember when I streamed Kingdom Hearts 3, I fucking hated that game. That game sucks to me. I don't care what nobody says. That shit was not worth a 15-year wait. And it took me like 30 minutes to figure out how to uninstall the Xbox. And Xbox fans are probably going to call me stupid, but the reality is I don't really use my Xbox. I literally turn my Xbox on 1 or 2 times a year. So it literally every time that I turn it back on, it's like having to relearn the UI because it's so fucking bad. I don't care. Well, so let me explain something to Xbox fans, right? Just because you're used to using that dog shit ass interface doesn't mean it's good. It means you learn to tolerate it and eventually you learn to navigate it, but it's not intuitive. Intuitive means easy to use. Are you Negroes listening? Intuitive means easy to use. When you first turn the PS4 on, the interface is very easy to use. You just scroll left and right to your different options. That's it. But with the Xbox interface, it was confusing as hell, but it led to some great content. So I appreciate that. I know it's going to infuriate a lot of people, but it's cool. You'll be shuffling through your panels tonight. Anyways, number 5, my number 5 Xbox One exclusive was when Don Patrick said, you cannot use the Xbox One without the Kinect. You guys remember that? You guys remember that lie? That shit was one of my favorite games that he ever played. It was a PR game. Don Patrick played a PR game. And the funny part is this man threw Xbox and Microsoft under the bus. And literally like 3 months later, he left and he works for Zynga or some shit now. So when he said that the Xbox One X could not work without the Kinect, that was a great game to play because it fucked up the gaming community's head. People were like, yo, I gotta use this fucking government spying camera in order to play. What do y'all play again? Halo Master Chief Collection. So I gotta use my I gotta use the camera to play Forza BR. That's crazy, bro. That's fucking crazy. And the best part is it turned out to be a lie. The Xbox works completely fine without the Kinect, to the point where a lot of y'all forget. Do y'all remember when the Xbox One first came out? You had to buy it with the Kinect. They actually sold that dream. This thing straight up lied. That was a great game to play. It was like Joker levels of mind fucked. It fucked the community up. And the inner troll and Joker and me love Don Patrick for that shit. Now they sell the Xbox without the Kinect. I think most of you probably forgot the Kinect even existed until I just brought it up. So I thought that was a great game to play on the Xbox. Number 4, my number 4 Xbox exclusive, the YouTube app. The YouTube app on the Xbox One X is smooth. It's easy to log into. It's actually easier to navigate than the actual, traditional Xbox UI. You can watch 4K on your Xbox. You can watch my videos. Some of you are probably watching this podcast from your Xbox YouTube app. But my favorite thing about why this is one of my favorite games on the Xbox One, stick with me here, is with the YouTube app on the Xbox One, you were able to go on YouTube and search videos. And that means you were able to watch scale-bound footage from the YouTube app on the Xbox One. Now, scale-bound never came out, but thanks to the YouTube app, you're able to watch old scale-bound footage from E3 on your Xbox One, Xbox One X, put it in full screen. Stick with me. You put the old scale-bound footage in full screen, and then you turn your controller on and you act like you're playing it. Who says scale-bound didn't come out? That's all. And that honestly, that wouldn't be possible without the YouTube app when you think about it. So that's why I say the YouTube app is actually top 5 when it comes to Xbox One X games, because it allows you to watch scale-bound footage on YouTube from your Xbox, and then you can act like you're playing it. All right, number 3. Number 3. The Xbox Elite Controller 2. I actually have it right here. So the Xbox Elite Controller 2 is very nice. So as you can see, it doesn't run off batteries, so that makes it worth $200. There's also buttons that you can like press in the background. I took them off because I thought they were annoying, but extra buttons that you can program. One of my favorite things about the Xbox Elite Controller is that you can take the thumbsticks off. Oh shit. Oh, goddamn. You can take the thumbsticks off right there. So if you don't want to play with thumbsticks, you can do that. A lot of times when I'm gaming, like I'll accidentally like slide my finger on the side of it and it pops it off, boop, and then the joystick just goes rolling under my desk, and you know, because it's black and it's hard to see, good luck finding it. And then also you could take the D-pad off. So if you're tired of taking the D, you can take that off. The buttons are really responsive. And I feel like a $200 controller is very important when you have no games. I think it's very important for Microsoft to, like, I commend them for what they did. Like, they realized that they had no games, and instead of allocating their resources towards software, they built more hardware for no software to play with, when you think about it. And I think that's a smart business move. When you actually think about it, this controller is the Xbox Elite Controller 2 is essential for navigating the YouTube app and pretending to play scalebound footage. So very underrated, very underrated. Now, this might sound like I'm contradicting myself. I don't know if I have it on my desk. I think I do. Actually, here we go. It sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but my number 2 Xbox exclusive game is the original Xbox controller, the Xbox One controller. The reason I put this slightly above the Elite controller is because it's a similar thing, but the thumbsticks don't pop off. The thumbsticks don't pop off. I understand that was supposed to be a cool feature, but like, if you like it, cool. Personally, it wasn't me. It comes down to personal preference. One of the main reasons, though, that I say this is superior to the Xbox Elite controller is when you're thinking about not playing any games, you can think about how this controller still runs on batteries. As you can see, I have my Amazon rechargeable batteries in the back. It's a lot of times where you're playing games, you're deep into the game, you're having a lot of fun, and then the thing pops up, oh, your batteries are about to die, and it's like, damn, I paid $500 for this next gen console and it still runs on batteries. And I think that's a great game that Microsoft like play with people. They fuck people's heads up and they're like, you know, you think it's a next gen, but nope, it runs on batteries. So that's a cool game that I think they played with the consumer. So yeah, I would put this slightly above the Xbox Elite controller, because the Xbox Elite controller does not run on batteries. If the Xbox Elite controller ran on batteries, this might be one of the best games on the Xbox One X. Now, we've been having a pretty serious, let me get a swig of this water. We've been having a pretty serious conversation. A lot of you probably would think that I would say Netflix or Hulu was one of my favorite games on the Xbox One X of this generation. Nah, we gave that to the YouTube app in terms of like media. You could put Hulu and Netflix in there with like the YouTube app, but YouTube in specific, because you can watch scalebound footage on YouTube. The reality is my number one favorite Xbox One exclusive goes to the Xbox Live price increase. The Xbox Live price hike is my favorite game of this generation. See, you guys forget. Xbox Live on the 360, it was $50 a year. Now it's $60 a year. And then they increased the price again to $75 a year with the Game Pass. So we went from $50 to $75. That's a $15 price hike. I think that's probably one of my favorite games. That is my favorite game for the Xbox, because back in the Xbox 360 era, they had tons of games. So the $50 a year was no big deal. But now you pay $75 a year and there's no games. I mean, they have a Game Pass with shitty indie games on there that nobody wants to play, and Gears of War 5 and Forza. Who gives a fuck about that? And Halo Infinite, which ain't coming out till God knows when because it got delayed. But you guys got games, sure. I think it's genius of Microsoft to make the Game Pass and the Xbox Live $75, because when you think about it, it fucks you up in the head. It's like the ultimate mind game. We made you play more for less, and you have to respect Microsoft's hustle when they're able to mind fuck the Xbox community so much. Xbox fans love gobbling the balls of fucking Master Chief so much. They've been finessed into paying $15 extra a year to play nothing. You're watching my podcast right now, mad, heated. Your blood's boiling because you know I'm speaking the truth. Oh yeah, and 2K, because y'all niggas play 2K on Xbox, my bad. That shit is crazy. And that's why it's one of my favorite games. It is my favorite game on the Xbox One. The Xbox Live price hike. Think about that shit. That's next level mind fuckery. So let's do a quick recap on what the list looks like. So my top 10 favorite Xbox One exclusives. Recap. Number 10, sleep mode. Number 9, entering your Wi-Fi password. Number 8, telling Xbox fans they have no games. Number 7, the Mixer app. Number 6, the confusing interface or UI. Number 5, can't use the Xbox without the Kinect. Number 4, the YouTube app. Number 3, the Xbox Elite Controller 2. Number 2, the original Xbox One controller. And number 1, the Xbox Live price hike. I hope you guys found this conversation informative, fun, different. I had a lot of fun with it. It's not a lot of times that I get to have like serious conversations like this with you guys, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it.